Hey everybody, we're at the machine shop and we're actually cutting the end of a pipe square. Just cutting a little, saving a little bit off to get it square. Yeah, see right there? We're just going to square that pipe. Yeah. Just make it straight. It's a little angled, so we just go in until it consistently cuts and then we're good. Then we're going to weld a nut onto the end of it because it's square now. We're actually going to weld this nut here on the end of it, and then we'll cut the threads out of this nut so that a shaft this size, this is the size of the propeller hole stack, will smoothly slide in and out there but be snug. And then we're going to cut the outside of this nut so that it'll slide inside of this pipe. And you'll kind of see how all this unfolds as we go to the boat and assemble all this. So this is for the propeller shaft. This part here is epoxy to the bottom of the boat. And this end here is where that tube comes out of, and then the propeller shaft comes out even more. So stay tuned. We're at the machine shop. Paradise. We got to weld that next. Paradise out. Now we're doing the nut part, and I think we're going to center that nut with this device. He's got like a little cone shape attachment he puts in this side, and it puts in that nut, see right there? And that's going to center that nut on there, and then I think he's going to weld it after he gets it all centered up. Okay, now that's the centering. Now it's centered on there perfectly, and then he's gonna do a stick weld on that one. And then we're gonna start the machining of the inside and the outside as soon as that's done. So there we go. It has the stick right there. All right, folks, we're welding that nut onto the pipe. It's stainless weld, so I won't blind you anymore, but we'll be back with more from my Paradise. I'll blind you a little bit more. My Paradise on the Medallion Island. Paradise. All right, folks, right now we are cutting the nut that we welded down to a small enough size to go inside of that pipe right there. So he's already measured it using the calipers. I'm calling them calipers. They call all kinds of things, but anyway, that's the size we need. You gotta put the measure on that bad boy. Trim it a little bit more, just another hair. He's dialing it in there. That's the measurement now, so he knows how much more to cut off. And we're just shaving off just basically the corners of the nut. And it has to slide inside of that tube there sort of freely, but it only slides through it one time, so it's not a real big deal as long as it is, not sloppy. So anyway, we're gonna finish this up and we'll be back with more of my Paradise on Medallion Island. Paradise out. So here's where we stand right now with the welding and the machining. You can see there's some flat spots there. We got to take a little bit more off, but he's got to sharpen his cutter. So we're gonna let him do his sharpening. He's taking a wrench out there for some reason, but anyway, that, my friends, is what we got so far. And then we got to do the inside. So Paradise. You got to do that one. Still sharpening a little bit more. Paradise. Paradise out. All right, folks, we're cutting the inside of the, he didn't really measure it, but he's just trimming it up inside now, doing the first cut. He's basically cutting off the thread. So once you get past the threads, then we got to make it, this 5/8 inch is 15.8 millimeters. 5/8 inch is equal exactly to 15.8. So we're going to make that 15.85 or something like that. So this slides in and out, but there's still a seal to prevent the grease from coming out. So anyway, let's see what he's up to, and I'll be back with more. My Paradise. I'm Italian Island. Paradise out. Boys and girls. We have just, I know I didn't YouTube all of this as we were going through. A lot of people were around here and getting involved in conversations and not YouTube videoing, but you saw where I was at the machine shop yesterday getting that thing made. Not this thing. This I made this one. I cut this angle on here and stuff. But what we did, we put a 5/8 inch nut, welded it on the end of this stainless steel pipe here, and then we machined it down the outside so that it would fit inside of this tube, and the inside so that it would make a nice seal but still freely let this propeller shaft here spin. That's the propeller shaft. That's where the propeller screws on. The rudder's right there. This is a little bit long. We need to cut about 3 inches off of, not this end, but the other end. So the propeller's not hitting the rudders. There's no interference there. So this shaft's a little bit long. So what we did, we drilled a hole in the top here. You see that? I'm going to put a grease zert fitting on there. First I'm going to weld a nut on there, and then I'm going to screw in a zert fitting so I can grease this tube. Because normally with these tubes, you have to get the boat on land, take this propeller shaft out and grease it up by hand, and then slide it back in there to lubricate it. Well, what I'm trying to do is make this end here so snug that if you pump grease in here, there's less resistance going that way, and it pumps it all the way up and out by the engine and fills this whole tube full of grease. And because this, it's kind of like a bushing or kind of like a semi-seal with the machining here, that hopefully grease doesn't come out to here. If it does, I can, when I'm greasing it through that hole with the grease zert fitting, I can wrap a motorcycle inner tube. I can cut it in strips and wrap it around here and tie it and try to seal this off pressure-wise and force that back in there, and still don't have to take the boat out of the water, because to take this boat out of the water, you have to unbolt it. You have to unbolt all this stuff and carry it in one by one. Actually, you don't have to carry this one in, but you don't want to leave these out there because they're not balanced. These little flat bottom boats, they'll roll over on you easily. So hence Trimaran with the extra big holes, and that way they're stable. So anyway, what I did, this is the existing propeller shaft coming out of the bottom here, and I put some JB Weld epoxy on there. I actually ordered it through one of the online places here. So I put the JB Weld because that's the best epoxy probably in the world from what all the tested. There's a YouTube website called Farm Project, and he tests everything. He does really thorough tests, and they're really equal chance for all of the products to, show their strengths and weaknesses. So anyway, I slid that on there. I cut this in, machined this in, the same thing, the outside, so that it would fit inside of this tube here, because this tube is going to slide on here, and you see the angle is cut. That's because this is the bottom of the boat. Let me get the lighting better, because this tube here, once this all dries, this tube here slides on the back there slides on all the way up here through this one here, because that's machined to fit inside of here, and through this one here, because that's machined to put in, and it slides all the way up here to right here, and it goes on there. And then we epoxy all this. Of course, it'll be on going over this prop shaft tube when it's all said and done. But at any rate, that's what this one does. And then back here, you see where it ends here? Right there? It gets welded to this one here, so that this can't just slide out, because now it's welded to this that's epoxied here. And I'm going to put some little tabs on the side, have my welder weld some tabs on the side of there, just to give a little extra grip with the epoxy. Small little, like a little L tab, like a tab that sticks out, a little 1/4 inch tab, 1/4 inch by a 1/4 inch, 1/4 inch by 1/2 inch tab here, and maybe 1, 2 on these sides. So when you epoxy, you've got that tab preventing it from just sliding out. Because this is just a slide here. It's smooth. It could slide out if you hit a bump or something, but you got those tabs. That gives it a little more traction. And again, this guy goes all the way up to here, yeah, all the way up to there, and epoxy's on, and you can see that crack. You see that epoxy there? It's all cracked right here. You see that crack? Yeah, I gotta grind all that out, and then after this guy goes on, we're going to epoxy all this plus this under here, and then again weld this in here onto about right where it's covering that other one right there, right about here. Then we're going to have what I call chopsticks welded onto the top of this guy here and here. Anyway, you come hold the chopstick. Okay. I'm going to have my wife hold the chopsticks here. So basically, these two, I'm going to cut these off here so that these two wind up directly on top here, and then weld them on here. And then I got 2 more back here that goes here. And we're going to do the same thing. Cut these off here where they cross. I just crossed them because I didn't know how long this would be after everything's all welded and epoxied in. So now I can, once all things are locked in and epoxied, I can cut this to the proper length. And of course this sticks out here, so it'll slide that way to where the cross is, where the cross is on top, and then we weld there. And again, that's my little grease zert fitting there. And that will shore up this, because this propeller shaft, when you get at high speeds, because it did end here, and you got all this length of shaft going out, and if you get at high speed, this thing starts wobbling around like that, not spinning like it should in just a straight line. It starts to wobble like that because it's not straight, it's out of balance. They can't make these things perfect when they're 6 feet long. These are about 6 feet long. So there's a little bend or wobble somewhere, because we just don't have the technology here. And if you did, first time you bump something, they're bent again, because stainless bends. It's hard to bend, but it does bend, and I can bend it. You put this between 2 trees and grab it and pull it, and it'll bend. And you hit it hard enough and it'll bend. So anyway, that is supposedly will shore up everything. And again, this is going to move 3 inches in here, so the back of this will be about right here, and the propeller blade will be right in here somewhere. So that should be good, shooting straight at the rudder to give us good turning. Hey everybody, we are upside down and we're looking at the bottom of the boat. This is the bottom, this is the back, of course, back there. The rudder is right there, the propeller shaft's here, and I'm going to cut about 2 inches off of the shaft, so at that end there. But this is my new tube here, the extension tube I had on machined.
to make a good seal down here at this end, but still let the shaft spin freely, but keep the grease in this tube all the way up. And this one I had machined here, so this tube would slide inside of it, that I could put epoxy. That's JB Weld, by the way, the best epoxy in the world, according to me and some other people. So anyway, but right now I'm cleaning all, I'm sanding all this old paint and stuff off down here, because I've got epoxy. There's a tube. Honey, where's that tube? Where's that tube? We need a, there's a tube that goes on here, slides on here, and it's kind of like a reinforcement for this connection, this joint here. There's my tube right there. You can see I had little tabs welded on the side. That's so when we epoxy it, the tube can't slide out. Because right now it's just a smooth thing that could slide out. So we're going to slide this on down here. See that, folks? Slides on, slides on. A little snug. Never been that snug. Is that a new snug? Huh? Why is it so snug? Huh? Maybe it had to be the welding. Oh, the welding. The welding. There's some bumps on here. See right here? That made the tube smaller. I got to grind those out. So let me grind those out, and then we'll be back, and I can slide this on Paradise. All right, we're back. And this is the tube. And what it was, when they welded these tabs on, anytime you weld on anything, it moves, it deforms, it bends, it twists, it warps, it does something. It doesn't stay the shape that it was. There's minute or small movement, but this here was bent in this way. So there's a little tree around the corner that they bend stuff on, and I stuck it between the trees, got like a little V, stick it in that V and twist it, pull it, and it'll bend it. So I got it straight now. So now it just slides right on, just like it's supposed to. See right here, slides, whoops, get on here, slides on here, but past there, whoops, right there, slides all the way up, smooth as silk, slides up here to the bottom. You see those little tabs that I had welded on? That's where the epoxy will grip and keep this from just wiggling and being able to slide out, because it's just a slick tube. I will probably rough it up some with my grinder, give it some texture to grip the epoxy. But right now what I'm doing is kind of widening this out some, because before I just had like an inch or so, but now I'm moving it out to about 3 or 4 inches out and getting all this area here, so when we epoxy, it's got a good area to stick to. So anyway, these are my chines here. Chines, I have 3. I call them chines. I don't know what other boat talk people might actually call them, but I call them chines. But anyway, so this tube goes on here, gets epoxied, and we've got some fishnet we put on over here. We epoxy all this, then we stick with this on here. We epoxy this, and then we slide this on so it's all epoxy between the two, and then we put a layer of epoxy on here, and we put fishnet on here. It's about an 1/8 inch hole, a 3/16 hole, fishnet, little 3/16 squares. Put that on here, you'll push it into the epoxy, and then we put a final layer of epoxy on there, and then that's like a poor man's fiberglass. But that's what they use here a lot. And then we will weld later on. We will weld this to this pipe, and that permanently connects all of this to this end pipe here, this extension pipe. And then we'll see what we do next. But right now, I got to finish grinding this out. That was the whole point of me showing you what I'm doing right now. I'm just grinding. See right here, I started getting all that out. So I'll get all this off here and give us a nice wide area to put that epoxy in. And epoxy needs to, if it's on wood, it'll actually bleed into the wood and really grab it good. So, and this is epoxy here. This pink is epoxy. The white is enamel paint. It'll stick to paint, but paint doesn't stick to anything else. You can peel that paint off. So it's a false adherence, I guess I would call it, if you put it on paint, because paint doesn't stick to what's under it. So you can rip the epoxy off, and the paint will be stuck to it, but whatever the paint's on won't be stuck very good to the paint. So anyway, I got to do this little section. Then I think we're going to epoxy primer this, but I'm going to ask the boat builder over there if that's a good, if epoxy sticks to epoxy primer good. I think it does, and I was reading on the internet that it does, but it may stick to wood better. So we'll see. I'll find out. Epoxy primer will seal the wood good, so that's a point, but so does epoxy. So we'll find out. We'll ask the expert. So anyway, Paradise. Here we go. That's the propeller to the rudder. Paradise. Okay, everybody. Out. This is basically Move that in. This is basically what we got here. So it's basically fiberglass. You can see. We're just laying this down. Of course, this isn't done yet. I'm just propping it up here to show you basically how we do this. Put the epoxy on there, stick this on there, then layer epoxy on top and snug it all up. So I'll let that down. We're going to mix some epoxy. This here has to come out right now while we lather that up, and then this will slide on and epoxy as much as we can in here up there. So Paradise out, propeller, rudder, orientation. Hey everybody, there we go. All right, we got the epoxy, and again we're on the back of the boat underneath. Slathered epoxy all over the place. Got it all in there as good as I think we can do, and now we're going to slide this right here over it, but I got to get my hands free, so you won't get to see that part, but you'll get to see the end result. And then we put the net on. So this is pre-net here, and everything's slathered. So Paradise. All right, everybody, as you see, we're at the back of the boat where again the propeller shaft comes out, and we're doing epoxy on the propeller shaft. I got it down here. I'm laying on the tarpaulin. But we basically have this going on here. See right there? See that? That's where the propeller shaft comes out, and we're epoxying it and trying to make the light color. Yeah, honey, the net's coming through all here. This has got to be pushed back in. Yeah. The problem is that the net, see, we got this net here. You can see that net. Let me make sure the color, the light brightness is right. But yeah, see that net, the epoxy behind it pushes it out. The weight is like a fish inside of that net, pushing it down. It's making it sag. So now it pushes through and bulges down here like that. See that bulge? We got to push all that back up and into the thing. Now the good news is that we can put a second coating on here if we don't like how things look right now. But here's the net coming out of there. You didn't actually see us doing this part because I can't really, once I get epoxy on my hands, I can't grab my phone because then it epoxies my fingerprint. Then I ain't get epoxy the screen if I where I touch it to turn the camera on and all that. So that's why you don't get to see me in the middle of an epoxy job too much. So anyway, that's basically it. I ground all the paint and everything down, pretty much down to close to bare wood here. They layered it on there really thick, and now I'm putting this shaft with the net on. So when we're all said and done, see all these little bumps and stuff, I'll get a grinder and smooth all that out, and maybe come back with a second layer of epoxy on this bad boy. So anyway, and do like a cosmetic type thing, although it's not a big deal because as soon as we get the diesel engine in here, all this comes out, this whole tube, this whole thing that we've rigged up here to make it smooth spinning pop tube, or hopefully make it a smooth. That's our wish. So that's our wish. So everything comes out. My chopsticks I'm going to put here, and over here, wherever the oh, back here is where the tape is. That's to cover the hole so that rain doesn't go back up in there and get the hole wet, because we got epoxy all that too. So all that comes off. But the good news is a grinder will take almost everything off that we need to take off. once it's all set. But we'll leave these on. We'll actually leave these on. These will stay on because when we get the diesel in, we'll have this pipe, this heavy thick wall pipe with the bushing at the end, the machine bushing, and it'll go all the way through to the inside of the boat where the motor will be a one-piece solid heavy duty pipe with the Zert fittings here. See right there, right there where the hole is. That's where the Zert grease Zert goes right there, and we grease the tube without taking the boat out of the water. So anyway, we'll let that do what it does, and we'll be back with more from my Paradise on Battalion Island. Paradise. All right, everybody, we're doing chopsticks today. What we're doing, of course, this is the back of the boat. That's the rudder. That's the propeller shaft. What we're doing, we're welding these onto this propeller shaft tube that I extended so that it doesn't flop around. See? So we've got this positioned on the boat. And we've got this one here is about the right length, this one on this side, but this one here needs to be cut a little bit more. And then it's going to weld right on the top of this so it doesn't drag in the water. There's already the water is going to be displaced by this shaft here. So if you put it on the side, then you'd have extra drag, but we're putting it on the top where it's right in where the drag is already eliminated. So anyway, that's it right there. And we got one more that goes here. Between these two lines, see that little blue line, and it welds to right here where that little circle is. That's the target welding. So that will hold the propeller shaft. So we are gonna cut this one here a little bit more. Okay, let go. Got a little blue mark right here somewhere. Let's see where it is. See right there. Got to cut where that little blue mark is, and then we'll be good to go. I hope. And I got to buff these things here too. I got to buff these and make them shine. These ends, because you got to shine. Everything shines. So anyway, we're going to do that. Here's our cutting area right there, and we'll be back with more. Cutting the chopsticks, and there's the other chopsticks we have to cut too. So Paradise, everybody, look at that. It's about there. Look at that. That's all right. If I just set this there, it stays. That's how perfectly matched it is. And we'll epoxy this to here, and then we got 2 bolt holes that go all the way through the bottom of the boat and 2 by 4 inch red Lawan wood there. So we'll weld all this up. This one on the right is a little bit short, but we'll weld it to this one and then weld that one there. It ain't going nowhere. We could fill in, but I don't want to fill in because things start getting hot. When this pipe starts getting too hot, it warps and bends, and I don't want that. So we'll be delicate when we're doing this. Okay. So now we're going to do that one, and we'll be back with more of my Paradise on Battalion Island. Paradise out. All right, y'all. We are at the back of the boat. Right here, and this is of course, this is the propeller shaft. This is the propeller shaft tube going from here inside the boat, and these are what I call the chopsticks. So we had these all welded up and everything and measured, and now we ground them to the proper length so that they touch on here. We're going to weld it to here. We've got bolts that we bolt them through the bottom of the, well, we epoxy and bolt through to the bottom of the boat. We have a 2x4 Lawan in here. We also have this bottom piece of plywood, and we have another 3/8 piece of marine plywood, and then we have the 2x4s. So this is all reinforced, super duty to take any banging that this might get someday, hopefully never. The sides are also reinforced. We added another 3/8 inch plywood on the sides here to strengthen them. See this here? See how that sounds? Right there, solids up. That's extra 3/8 plus the outside 1/4. So we got 5/8 with the epoxy. So anyway, this is what we're doing today. So next thing I'm going to do is grind the pane and stuff off the bottom here. Take this out. See right there where we got the marks between those blue lines, and right here.
between those blue lines there, we're going to grind all the paint and everything off and then slather the epoxy on and put the bolts through and bolt all this in and make it secure and let the epoxy dry. Then after it dries, then the welder can come out and weld these and also weld a little nut on here for our grease fitting. And we'll see how that works. So anyway, that's what we're up to today. And we'll be back after the fact, because like I said, when I'm grinding, I had to use both hands. And I can't video. I do have a new chest cam kind of a thing there, but it's going to just throw dust all over the camera lens and then you still won't be able to see because I'm throwing dust from grinding. So we will be back with more chopsticks in the Philippines. Paradise.
Hey everybody, okay, we ground all of the paint and most of the epoxy off the bottom here. The interesting thing is this wood here, see it? It looks like normal plywood. This wood here though looks like some weird color. See, it's dark and light. I don't know, it's like a different kind of plywood here. But anyway, it's reinforced on the inside with the 2x4, so if you can see that, I don't know if you can see it there. It's reinforced all the way from here all the way back to beyond here a little ways with the 2x4s solid all the way across. So that is what we're going to slap some epoxy on, and then we're going to put the chopsticks on there. Then we're going to run the bolts through here. We're going to epoxy them up, get them all lathered up and slathered up so that these holes are epoxied and sealed. Because water's going to be here all the time, off and on, but it's going to be here. This is not submerged. Typically, it could be though, but it's definitely going to be wet and splashy. So anyway, kind of like the transom of a boat. The back part isn't always submerged. All of it's not submerged, but this part is submerged, and this part is submerged. This part up to maybe this will be submerged. We'll see once it's in the water. But we'll have it all solid epoxy all the way up and down, in and out. So anyway, we're going to get the epoxy in, and we'll be back with more of my Paradise on Italian Island. Paradise out, y'all. We're upside down, and we're putting in the chopsticks. And it's not as easy as it should be, because in order for these things to go in straight, they need to be aligned straight. And they're not aligned straight because you can't put this all the way up there and get a wrench on the head of this because it hits the bar. So we have to kind of waggle our way all the way up. We've slapped the epoxy on there, as you can see. Got epoxy, I don't know if you can see very good, kind of weird colors, but yeah, we got the epoxy on both sides. We got them on the bolts, and now we're working the bolts in one by one. So, and then the other one we got is this one here, but that masking tape keeping it dry, keeping the rain from dripping down on it. It's rainy season now, and it's really raining every day, and it makes it harder for us to get projects like this done because this is exposed to the rain. But we're going to press on, and I'm going to grab the wrench, and my lovely assistant over there, where she is, can't see her face. Oh, there she is going to help me with whatever else I need. Paradise. Hey, y'all. Okay, we're working on the second chopstick. The first one's installed. You can see we got it all. Let me see if I can get the lighting good. Oh man, and it matches up right on top of the propeller tube where we're gonna weld it right here. We're gonna weld it to the tube here. We gotta take the propeller shaft off because any heat you put on this will bend the shaft. Any heat you put on steel bends it typically, so you gotta be careful. This one here, we already got it slathered with epoxy. We got it all, the bolts in it, and we're just screwing them in because they're tight, because it's humid, rainy day. Not yet. It rained this morning, so the wood swells up. So that makes these bolts tight, so we have to thread them through. We can't just push them through the holes that we drilled. So anyway, we put the second chopstick on, and you see it matches up. Well, it's not going to match up yet because we don't have it all the way up against the bottom of the boat here. So we'll do that, and then we'll be back with more My Paradise on Italian Island. We got chopsticks, boys and girls. Paradise.
Alrighty,
out.
everybody. We got chopsticks. Check them out. Right there. See how that comes down? And this will be welded here. And this will be welded here. And this pipe here will be welded to this pipe. And we'll weld a nut on here for the grease zert fitting. So I can pump grease in here and keep it lubed. And the bottom part looks like this. You can see that? We kind of spread all the epoxy out nice and neat, covered the bolts heads so water don't get in through there on both of these, front and back. So we are looking good right now. And again, this is non-sag epoxy, so it's less likely to drip. It will drip, but it's much thicker and much more easier to work with upside down than the other stuff will just run. I mean, it'll drip massively. So don't try to use the gray epoxy upside down or on a vertical surface like the side of the boat or something like that. Only use non-sag. So anyway, I think we got it. Front and back. Check it out. Paradise. Hey folks, you know I've been talking about welding the chopsticks. Check this out. That chopstick's welded. And that chopstick's welded. Now we're welding this pipe, the bigger pipe, onto the smaller pipe. And then we got to weld the nut onto there for the grease fitting. And then I think we'll be welded and good to go. This is Levi, the welding expert. So anyway, we'll let him get this pipe welded on there, and we'll be back with more from my Paradise on Italian Island. Paradise at the back of the boat, of course, where the propeller shaft comes out. And those are the chopsticks, as those rods, stainless steel rods, hold that he welded to the propeller shaft tube. And then we got to weld the other outer shaft that is giving it extra support coming out of the back of the bottom wood part of the boat with all the epoxy. It's epoxy to that. So anyway, here we go. Paradise out.